Hi there, it's Tracy Kiernan from Step by Step Painting, and this acrylic painting tutorial is going to show you how to paint a snowman holding two penguins up. They are decorating the Christmas tree. So I did this on a 10 by 20 canvas. If you don't want to use the long canvas, you can do the design on pretty much any size canvas, but I did it on the tall one this time around. Let's go over brushes and colors. I will be using a 1-inch flat brush, a number 4 round brush that was done for most of the detail work in this painting, and a number 8 round brush. I love this number 8 round brush, and it's a really good brush to do this style of Christmas tree with, and I'll link that for you. It's a Princeton Velvet Touch brush. For the colors, I have 7 colors in this painting. We have Mars Black, Cerulean Blue, Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, Cadmium Orange Hue, Pyrrole Red, Primary Yellow, and Titanium White. If you don't have the Pyrrole Red, you can use any red. You can also substitute with whatever paint brand and colors you have available. There is a traceable template for this. If you're not using the traceable and you're drawing this with me, you'll need a pencil, eraser, and ruler. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is the 10 by 20 canvas. I will be turning it on its side a lot just so you can see the full canvas on the camera. It's hard to film these long canvas paintings because of the size of the painting, and we have a horizontal camera mode, but we have a vertical painting, so it's a little bit of a challenge to film. But I'll be turning it around so you can see different angles of it. So we are going to start by painting the entire background. It's like this blended, pretty, wintry, swirly sky background, and I did that with using just 2 colors. So we have Cerulean Blue and Titanium White on the palette, and I'm loading my number 1-inch flat brush in the water, and I'm going to start by mixing equal parts blue and white together. We're going to start at the top of the canvas, and let's just paint this big, long, kind of swirled stroke across the canvas. So this is going to start sort of the framework for what we're doing here. When I load my brush again, I'm going to grab white. So this is going to be a lot lighter. I'm going to blend it with what I just painted. So we are going to just create this swirled effect around the sky simply by blending blue and white together. So some parts will be lighter, some parts a little bit darker. So we can even kind of exaggerate these spirals and do a big kind of circular spiral right here. And then it just kind of goes in and blends with the rest of that. And the trick with this is just to kind of not over blend it. So when you go to reload, you can kind of make a pattern, load the blue on your brush, and the next time you go and load, you load more white on the brush. So right here, we're just going to contour this around that spiral and allow that to blend with what's already there. Take this, spiral that in, and you're just basically filling your sky with all this spiral style paint strokes using the full width of the brush. So I have more white on my brush this time around, and we can do kind of a circle thing and a wavy spiral thing here. Yours will look different from mine, and that's okay. So we are basically filling our canvas with this style. I'm going to go almost to the bottom of the canvas. I am going to leave a gap towards the bottom, maybe like a 3-inch gap on the bottom, because there is going to be snow on the ground and it's not entirely sky. It's mostly sky. So you see how I'm just kind of flip-flopping between blue and white and creating spirals in the sky, little S's that all just kind of blend together. as we approach the bottom of the canvas, we may not have room for larger spirals, so we can just do wavy strokes, but still just kind of leave it unblended. And it's important, you may be tempted to kind of go back and maybe blend some of these, but you want to just kind of leave it alone because we're trying to get that kind of two-toned look in the sky, and if we overblend it, it will all turn the same color. So down here, we can just do these kind of long curved strokes that go across the canvas, but I am leaving about that much of a gap on the bottom. So there's our painting going vertically. If you want, you can paint the sides. So whatever is left over on your palette, you kind of paint the sides of the canvas. This next step, you can wait for this to dry a little bit, especially if the bottom part of the paint is kind of too wet. Wait for that to dry just a little bit because we don't want that blue to blend in with our snow very much. But I did rinse the brush completely and I have some fresh white on my palette. So I'm just going to take my brush, still the number 1-inch flat brush. I'm just going to kind of define this ground area. So I'm about 4 inches from the bottom of the canvas. You can do a straight line or you can do kind of a hill line. In the end, you're not really going to see the horizon line because the snowman and the tree cover it up. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take the blue and I'm going to blend the blue at the bottom. So it's bright white at the top where that horizon line is, and a little bit of blue on the bottom and blend that up. So that's going to give your land area a little bit of depth because it's darker at the bottom and lighter further away. So just blend that in and we have the ground area. Next, we want to wait for everything to dry before going on to the next step, which involves drawing. When you're ready for the drawing portion, you'll need a ruler and a pencil. So I am going to first draw the tree. So you can use my measurements if you want, or you can just estimate. So my tree trunk so the center of the tree trunk is about 2.5 inches from the right of the canvas. And I'm going to draw a vertical line. So I made a little mark at about the 2.5 inch mark from the bottom. And it's about 1.5 inches from the bottom of the canvas. So 2.5 inches to the left from the right side of the canvas and 1.5 inches from the bottom. Again, you can definitely estimate this. And I'm going to do a vertical line. So that vertical line is the center line of the tree. That's going to be very, very helpful for when we draw and paint this tree in. And I'm going to do this vertical line. It doesn't go all the way up. You could definitely make your tree higher than what I did. I did about 14 inches high for that vertical line, and then I'm sketching a little tree trunk. The little tree trunk is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches high, and then this horizontal line is about 6.5 inches wide, and then we're drawing this triangle. So I'm going to take the ends of that horizontal line and connect them to that very top point. My triangle kind of curves inwards a little bit. So I see how it just goes to this point. So it's just a very large triangle. And now we have the basic tree sketched out. I am not going to draw the snowman and the penguins yet. I am going to go ahead and paint the Christmas tree in and then do that. If you're using the Traceable, you are welcome just to trace all the design on the canvas. It's not going to really change anything as far as the steps go with this painting. So we are going to paint the tree next. I am using a number 8 round brush, the color Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, and Mars Black. We are going to make this tree very, very dark at first, and then we're going to layer on lighter colors so that layering effect is going to create the tree branches, make them look kind of three-dimensional. So on your palette, mix black and green together, but you want more green than black because if you mix equal parts black and green, it's just going to look black. But just do about 1 part black to about 2 or 3 parts green until you get a very, very dark green. And then take your 8 round brush. We're going to start at the bottom of our tree, so the bottom of this triangle, and I'm going to do each stroke going down. I'm going to create a row of strokes. So these ones are going this way, these ones are going this way, and then the ones in the middle are kind of going straight down, and then they start curving the other way. So that's my first row of branches, and I'm just doing that by stroking downwards. You want to put quite a bit of pressure on the brush. The lovely thing about this number 8 round brush is that it kind of gives you thick and thin strokes without kind of like trying too hard, because the tip of the brush is thin and the bristles are very thick at the base. So you're just stroking down, putting a lot of pressure, and it's already creating that thick and thin effect that we want when we create these branches. So we're going to do each row the same way, and then the row above it is going to slightly overlap the row that we just did. You also want to try to stay inside the lines of the triangle you drew, although the branches that are kind of on the sides, you can see some of mine are sticking out, and that's okay. When you let them stick out on the edges, that's creating some texture in your Christmas tree. So we're just going to keep working our way up. It will get more narrow as we work our way up, so you want to pay attention as you do each row that each row is getting more narrow than the one below it. You'll find that this does get quicker once you kind of get the hang of it. You're just stroking down and working your way up. Occasionally I'll go back and kind of fill in a previous row on the bottom, but for the most part I am going from the bottom and working my way to the top. So just stroking down each of these and filling in that triangle shape that we drew. Mine is actually getting a little bit lighter. That's just kind of what happened because I went to reload and kind of grabbed more green that time, and that's okay. It doesn't have to stay the same shade of green all the way up. In fact, if we kind of vary the green a little bit, that already helps to create some texture in our tree. So see how this one ended up being darker, and that's okay. I'm going to kind of brush the sides and make these stick out a little bit more, and that's helping to create texture. It's kind of doing this dry brush thing on the sides. But I still have a little bit more tree to build vertically, and so I'm going to take this up a little bit more and then fill the rest in. And again, you can take this Christmas tree higher. I actually probably could have made mine higher because I have a bunch of canvas left at the top. With these long canvas paintings, it's fun to exaggerate things, such as a very, very tall Christmas tree. I'm just filling this in. We want to wait for this to dry before we go and do our next layer. So while it's drying, what we can do is we can paint the trunk. I just did solid black for the trunk. There's no brown in my color palette that I'll be using, but if you want to grab brown because you want a brown trunk, that's okay. You can grab brown and do it brown. I did mine black. And just doing a few of these down here to allow them to kind of overlap the trunk a bit. I'll kind of turn my canvas on the side so you can see the full version. That's kind of what it looks like. Really pretty Christmas scene. And we have a lot more details to work on. So I'm going to let this dry just a little bit, but it doesn't need to dry all the way because if this darker part blends with our next part a little bit, that's okay. Let's mix a lighter green. Let's mix a little bit of white into our Hooker's Green Hue Permanent to get a lighter version of that green, so a tint of the green. It shouldn't be too light, so we're going to do multiple layers. This is kind of our medium green layer that we're going to do, and then we're going to do a lighter green layer after this. So we're going to repeat what we just did, only we are not trying to cover up all of that black. We want to make sure that that black is being used for shadow. We don't want to cover all our shadow up. So we're going to do this medium layer. I'm going to do the same technique again, row by row, starting at the bottom and having rows kind of overlap each other as we work our way up. And because it's a lighter color, it's going to look like it's starting to pop. And because we're letting a lot of that darker color still there, it's going to allow for shadows. So as we go up, It's okay if, so this one ended up being a little bit lighter because I added more white into it. Go down and add some of this lighter color in there. Kind of jumping ahead because I didn't do the medium layer all the way up. I was too excited for that lighter layer, but it's kind of the concept of doing medium and then light. And you can see as I'm doing the lighter layer, I'm not trying to cover up all of the medium layers, so we have dark, medium, and light, and I'm doing row by row. It's just stroking down and it's overlapping the previous row, and it's making our Christmas tree look three-dimensional. And I'm going to go back and add my lighter layers up here. So you're just curving down, stroking downwards, working your way to the top of the tree, row by row, and you're leaving like little gaps, leaving a lot of that shadow layer still showing through. And we can just keep layering this on if we want. We can go further. So if you want to make it look like there's snow on the tree, we can kind of wipe the brush off and grab a lot of white. So this is like a super, super light green. If you want to do pure white, you can. I opted for kind of a white mixed with just a little bit of green, so it wasn't too drastic. Still wanted enough contrast from the tree to the background. So if I did too much white, I felt like it would have blended in with the sky a little bit. But if you want to do more white, like a pure white to make it look like it has snow, you can. So let's see what that would look like. This one's got more white on my brush. The thing with the snow also is I like to kind of skip rows and leave a lot of blank or a lot of green spots open. So there's not as much of this white layer as there was the light green layer or the medium green layer. So just a few rows of that light color. Give it kind of the snow effect. And you can definitely add more snow if that's kind of the look that you're going for. When we are done painting our tree, we can start drawing our other characters in this painting. So we have a snowman to the left of the tree, and he's helping two penguins to decorate the tree. So let's start by drawing the snowman. And we're going to do a large circle, kind of a flat bottom because he's kind of flat on the ground, level with the base of the tree. And the middle circle slightly overlaps the top circle, and then we have a smaller circle that slightly overlaps our middle circle. So then we can detail this snowman up a little bit. We can do his little triangle nose pointing to the upper right. We can kind of sketch out his little beanie that he has on his head. His arms are going to be going this way because he's holding the penguin up. So we want to draw both of his arms over here, kind of slightly bent elbows, two little eyes going at a diagonal, and we can kind of draw the ground area. And I did with the tree too. So just kind of like this kind of wavy line to make it kind of the area where the snowman is situated on. So then we can start sketching out the penguins. So penguins are actually, at least cartoon penguins, are kind of similar to drawing snowmen, only we do two circles. So we do kind of a larger circle on the bottom that overlaps a smaller circle, or the smaller circle overlaps the bottom one. And then sketch kind of an oval shape on the inside of the bottom circle for his belly, and then two little kind of curvy triangle shapes for flippers that are reaching up. And then for the head area, I did kind of an M line shape that kind of points down inside the head. So we have a black area and a white area when we paint that in, and it's pointed in the center top of the head. And then we can do our next penguin. So this little guy is standing on the other penguin's head. So same kind of concept. So starting with the bottom kind of oval shape, and then the top circle shape slightly overlaps that bottom oval shape. And then we can do his little flippers. So this little guy is reaching up towards the top of the tree. He'll be holding the tree topper, and his other flipper can be up. His little feet, I did one foot on top of the head and the other foot's kind of hanging off diagonally. And then this little guy, his 2 feet are downwards. And we can do the inner oval part and that webbed part at the top towards his head. So very sketch-like, and when we paint this in, we can kind of adjust our drawing if needed. And he is going to be holding the star. So I can do a little oval down here for the base of the star, kind of a triangular, so basically like a cone shape that's over the point of his flipper. And then we can draw the star on top of that cone shape. So with these stars, I like to just go like this. And there's my star shape. And we can, again, adjust that when it's time to paint it in. So that's all of the drawing that I'm going to do for this. And I'm going to start painting next. Starting with the snowman and then working my way up to the top penguin. So I'm going to load some fresh titanium white onto my palette. I'm going to start by using the 8 round brush still. So the same brush that I used for the tree. I will be switching to a 4 round brush when we get into more detail work. But the first thing I'm going to do is basically paint the bottom circle of the snowman. So starting with just white, not mixed with anything right now, just some pure titanium white, painting this bottom circle. I am going to use black for the shading of this circle. If you want, you could do blue, but I decided to do black shading just so it would stand out from that blue-white background. So grab a little bit of black on my brush. You don't want too much black for this step. So just doing like a curve on the far left. I'm going to use my finger to kind of smear it in with the rest so that it's shadowy on the left and white towards the right. And I could also take my brush and just kind of scribble it right here in the middle to let that blend. We just don't want too much gray to get all the way to the right. I might have allowed too much gray, and that's okay. We can let that dry and adjust it later if we need to. I'm going to paint the next circle. So ideally, we could have rinsed the brush off and started over, but I did not. So this circle, same thing, starting with white, even though mine turned kind of gray. And I'll do this circle as well. Starting with white, fill it in solid. I'm going to rinse all that gray off my brush now. And go back. See if I can make this lighter. And blend. So it's lighter on the right side of the circles, and it's darker on the left. I just kind of blend it in using kind of expressive strokes. A little bit of dark, so I can do this part right here. Kind of blend that in. A little bit of dark over here on the left. Kind of blend that in. So that gets your circles to be more three-dimensional and not so flat when painting these snowmen. I'm going to add some shadow on the ground with gray. So I'm going to mix a teeny bit of black with my white. I don't want it to be too dark. It's a little bit, kind of a medium gray, just below the snowman. So just left and right, kind of thin strokes. I'm going to rinse, and I'm just going to take this white. I'm going to add some more white, kind of all throughout the snow area. Do a little bit of dark under the tree trunk, and then kind of white, kind of scattered throughout. Gives my ground a little bit of texture. So there's our painting so far, long version of it. And I'm going to zoom back in and start doing a few more details on the snowman. So I'm going to do his arms next. I'm still using the number 8 round brush, and I'm loading this into the black. The nice thing about this 8 round is that it has a nice point to it, so I can do these thin lines for his arms. If you want to switch to a different brush, you are definitely welcome to, like the number 4 round brush, if you're ready for that one. So his arm's a little bit thicker at the base and thinner, and he kind of bends his arm a little bit, and then the little ends of the branches are for his hands. Same right here. Elbows kind of bend a little bit, and little branches for the hands. He's going to be holding the penguin up. I'm going to change brushes to the number 4 round brush, and I'm still going to be using Mars Black. I'm going to start painting the penguins in. So I'm going to load that brush in the black, and I'm going to do this. So this, the body, the black part of the penguin around his belly area, I'm going to be painting. So this down here is thin, this up here is thick. So it goes thin at the bottom. So right here is thinner, and right there is thicker at the top. So we'll be able to go in and paint his feet at a later step after this black dries. So there's a space underneath him for the feet still. A little bit of water in that black to kind of get that to flow a little bit better. And so thick at the top, so it kind of points down. So we have the head of the penguin. And then I'm going to do the flippers. So his arms, same color. A little bit of water in that black helps. And twisting your brush also helps to get that paint kind of distributed on the tip of the paintbrush, so you can do these smaller details. So these ones are reaching upwards. He's going to later have candy canes that he's holding. I'll make that head. So the head is actually a little bit flat on the top because this penguin's foot is on his head. But same thing, it's thick right here, thin at the bottom. And filling in the head area as well. So I made the left part of the head. See how it's thicker on the left and thinner on the right? See how that's thicker right there? It's because that penguin is looking towards or leaning towards the right. And we can do his flipper. And then I originally drew this flipper kind of going upwards. I'm actually going to make this kind of go downwards or to the side. Next, I'm going to do the white part of the penguins. So I need some fresh titanium white on my palette, and I'm still using the number 4 round brush. And I'm going to paint the belly area and head in next. So everything inside this area is pretty solid white. I'm going to try not to let it mesh too much with the black, so I don't want to drag any of that black in there, but if we accidentally do that, that's okay. And we are not doing any kind of shading or highlighting in this, it's just solid white. I'm going to do the same thing for this penguin, filling that in solid white. Next, we can load some orange onto our palette. This is Cadmium Orange Hue, and have a nice clean number 4 round brush, and we can do the feet. So we can be very basic with these. I'm actually just going to do 3 little kind of like curves. So like 1, 2, 3. Initially, these are kind of like overlapping the snowman's hands, but if you want to kind of adjust the branches to make it look like he is more situated on his branchy hands, you can. Same thing right here, just 3 little kind of like curvy shapes. This one I kind of made it look more like webbed feet, and it's right on top of his head. And then right here as well, 3 little curvy shapes for the feet. We can go ahead and do I'm going to do a second coat to make that more solid. Then I'm going to do the snowman's nose, little triangle shape, pointing, angling upwards towards the right. I'm going to load red on my palette real quick too, because that will be used in hats, scarves. The little nose on this penguin is a little triangle with a curve at the top. Very, very simplified. If you want to do a more complex beak, you can. So this one, because he's looking more towards the right, I'm going to make his beak kind of look like it's open and also angled towards the right. Next, we can paint all of their little eyes. So using the black, and we can do very simple little dots, relatively close to the beaks for these penguins. Although if you want to make your eyes a little bit higher up, you can. They're very cartoon-like, simple penguins. And same with the snowman. So the snowman's eyes are going diagonal because he's looking upwards. And a mouth, little coal dots for the mouth, and we can do little coal buttons as well. These ones are also towards the right. Next, I'm going to paint the snowman's hat. So he has a red hat, although you're welcome to change the colors on this. I'm going to rinse my number 4 round brush off and use the color Pyrrole Red and do the base of the hat that slightly overlaps the top part of his head. So I'm just doing that one solid white for now, or solid red for now, and add a little bit of black and red together to kind of make a darker red. And the top part of his hat, I'm going to allow this to be darker. So if you want to do more of a Santa Claus style hat, you are welcome to change that up. The next thing I'm going to do is grab a little bit of this white and do like this little texture fuzzy thing at the top of his hat. Just doing like these little lines going in like a circular direction. There was a little bit of black on my brush too. Just a circular fuzzy thing on the top of his hat. You're welcome to change the color of this. You can add some patterns or designs on his hat as well. We will give the penguin up here a scarf. So using that same red color, going in a curved direction on his neck, and then this part of the scarf kind of hangs down and goes off, kind of like the wind is blowing it to the left. A little bit of white, kind of highlight some of that. I'm going to rinse my brush and grab a little bit of Mars Black. Actually going to make his eyes just a little bit bigger. And then over here on the right, I'm just going to touch up this little part of his head. I'm going to paint a hat on this top penguin. So I have some fresh blue on my palette. Also a color that you can change and customize. So I'm going to do kind of a Santa style hat with this one. So starting with the base of the hat, and I'm going to make it go in a kind of a triangular shape. So it's going to kind of go up like a triangle and then quickly go towards the left and then curve down and go to a point. And then I'm going to do the scarf on this snowman with the blue. So underneath the head, doing like that little wrapped around part of the scarf. And then I'll add a little bit of white in here, although adding white to this blue might make it blend in too much with the sky. So I want to make sure it's kind of darker in this area. But a little bit of the white helps give it some pretty two-tone color variation. And then a detail I'm going to do on this scarf is add like this sweater texture to it. So I'm going to rinse my brush and grab the titanium white. I'm just going to do these like little diagonal kind of marks going kind of in a zigzag formation. It's a little diagonal line and a zigzag, making 2 rows of that. That gives it a little bit of a very simple sweater knit texture. And then doing like little tiny, if I have room for like another little diagonal mark, in there. And with the white, I'm going to just add a few more little textured diagonal lines up here, and then a little bit of highlight over here on the left part of his hat. And I'm also going to make his eyes bigger. This is just because I like to do like a little sparkle in the eyes. So when the black dries, I'll go back and add like a little white dot in the upper left part of the eyes to give it that little sparkle. So I'm going to load some green on my palette, and I'm going to do a green scarf for the penguin in the middle. So using the number 4 round brush, Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, doing a curved scarf, and this part of the scarf piece that kind of flies away, can make that go behind his flipper. A little bit of white. Since green is kind of a translucent color, adding that white in there helps get it to be a little bit more solid. And then I'm going to go back to white and do the little white dots inside of all of our characters' eyes. I like doing this to cartoon style paintings. Gives it that little bit of character. It's a little tiny white dot in the upper right part of the snowman's eyes, and we can do it to each of the penguins' eyes as well. Down here, I'm going to do with the white, the base part of this Santa style hat, only it's a blue hat. So I'm just doing like little curved strokes with the white, and then I'll do the white on the end of his hat as well. Little kind of dotted strokes. Next, I'm going to use the primary yellow. So this is the first time yellow is on our palette, and still the number 4 round brush. I'm going to paint the star that our penguin at the top is trying to place on the tree. So the little cone, the end of his flipper is like inside the cone, kind of holding it up. I'm painting it titanium white first, so it's painted white first, so the yellow will be nice and bright. So the little cone shape, and then the little, or kind of like a medium star shape. So I painted all of that white first. So it's like a star on top of a triangle. And then we can go back over that with the yellow. You don't have to wait for the white to dry all the way before you do the yellow. You may notice that I did go outside of my original drawing, and that happens a lot. When this dries completely, we can use a regular eraser, and anything that's not been painted over will erase with a regular pink eraser. And then inside of that star, I'm going to add like another coat of white, although it's not really showing up because that yellow is still wet. So when that dries, we can add a little bit of white in the middle of that star, and that'll brighten that star up a bit. And then right here is where that cone is. I'm going to do like a little oval that's kind of going around the end of his flipper. And then I'm going to loosely outline this just on the edges of the star, and that is going to help get that to kind of pop a little bit better. The next thing I'm going to do is paint snowflakes. We have a lot of blank sky area in this painting, and we can definitely fill that up with some interesting snowflakes. So I'm just going to take titanium white and my number 4 round brush, and when I do snowflakes, I just do this. I make an X, a vertical line, and a horizontal line, and then I'll do a mixture of dots on the ends and little diagonal lines. And I just kind of like take that concept and kind of change it up a bit with each snowflake. So I'll do a few more set of diagonal lines. And then pretty much just all throughout the sky, we can do little dots. If you want, you could even do some glitter in the sky. Because there's such a lot of blank areas. There's a few things you can do. I almost painted like a little cardinal bird holding an ornament or something, but decided that was a little complex to do. But if you want to do that, you can. You can have like holly somehow kind of dangling up in the sky area. You can do more intricate snowflakes. You can make glitter snowflakes. So I'm just taking this and just adding snowflakes all throughout the sky, including little dots as well. So now that the star has dried just a little bit, I'm going to take that white and just add kind of like a layer of white right in the center of that, and that makes that star a little bit brighter. You can opt out of putting ornaments on the tree. You can, if you like the simplified look without the ornaments, you don't have to do the ornaments, but I'm just going to do little circles of varying colors. So right now I am doing yellow mixed with white and just doing little yellow circles everywhere. And I'm just going to kind of change that color. So I'm going to do red, I'll do blue and green. The green doesn't really show up, but we can still do green if we wanted to. If you want to introduce new colors on your palette or make colors on your palette, you can. The next thing I'm going to do is paint a strand of Christmas lights on the ground with the black. I almost thought about having the strand of lights kind of hanging down from one of the penguin's flippers, but decided to just have it on the ground. So that's a creative direction you can go if you want to have the Christmas lights hanging down. And so I'm just going to do, I know my hand is in the way right here. I'm just doing like a spiral curvy line with the black. So this is the string part of the lights. And it's just going to go off the canvas. And then I'll also do like a little tiny square or rectangle stroke. And that's going to be the bulb of the light. I'm going to let that black from the light strand dry a little bit before doing the bulbs, but while that's drying, I'm going to have this guy hold a candy cane. So making a white curvy J shape around the end of his flipper. And then when your strands are dry, you can start painting the little bulbs. Pretty much the rest of this painting is a lot of detail work, stuff that you can change around if you want to kind of change the colors of these bulbs or the direction that the lights are going in, or if you want to add candy canes in the tree, or just pretty much anything. Lots of little details that you can add to this. I'm doing different colored lights on my strand. Just doing like a little kind of light bulb shape. And then we can add stripes on our candy cane. So little diagonal lines going up that white J shape. I'm going to do a second candy cane on his other arm, using the titanium white to make a J and then doing the red stripes. Then I'm going to do a little highlight on each of the ornaments. So as long as these are dry, this won't get messy. I'm just doing like a little white curve on the left side of each of those circles. And then a curve highlight on the left side of each of the light bulbs. Then I'm going to do that knit sweater texture on the green scarf. So again, little diagonal curvy strokes, straight strokes, but they're kind of curved on the edges. Little rows of diagonal lines to create that sweater texture. And the last thing you can do is when this dries, you can just take a regular pink eraser and erase any of the leftover pencil marks that you might see. And that is it. This is the conclusion of how to paint. Let's decorate. Thanks for watching and thanks for painting with me.